close, cause I'm about to let you know. Stick to your budget, you know your pace. Invested in the market, you know what you can make. Keep your dough safe, that's only if you serious about these money issues. Do you wanna know how to make your money grow? Do you wanna know? Do you wanna know? New age money makers, you know it's in you. Make this paper, you know who to speak to. Make your money grow. It's for the future, it's that simple.
Sanbonani Emakaya, Dumelang Katlung, and thank you so much for joining me. Over the past few lessons, we've been looking at how businesses need to manage their finances. We've also spoken about the importance of budgeting and how we need to compare the budgeted figures with the actual results we have achieved. Are you with me, Joanna?
Hey mums, for sure. Basically, let's say we put 100 Rand in our budget for fax paper, then we need to make sure we don't spend 1,000 Rand on the paper. Otherwise, we're gonna be in trouble.
That's exactly right. We also looked at the importance of keeping accurate records of all transactions that happen in our business. Let's say, for instance, that you didn't keep any sales receipts for all the fax paper you bought. Then you wouldn't have any idea how much you spent. But there's another reason for keeping good records as well.
Another reason? What's that, Mampo?
It's something we haven't really spoken about before. All businesses need to complete a VAT return.
A VAT return? I've never heard of that. What's that all about?
Remember in a previous lesson we spoke about how the government also needs to keep a budget. Remember that the government also has expenses, like paying for roads to be built and hospitals to be maintained and that kind of a thing.
I remember watching that episode, yeah?
We looked at a pie graph of the expenditure in the recent budget. Do you remember? If you look at this graph, you will see some of the items that the government has to spend money on. This is a graph that describes the government's expenditure.
Okay, so the government is like a person or a business and they also need to draw up a budget. But then, where are they making all of their income from if they've got so many expenses?
That's where tax comes in. We've also discussed how the government taxes individuals, businesses, and profits in order to collect the money it needs to pay for its expenses. Taxes are the government's main form of income.
Okay, now I remember. But then what is VAT?
VAT stands for value-added tax, and it is one of the forms of taxes that the government charges. VAT is charged on many of the goods and services that are produced in the country. Whenever you go to the shop and buy a cool drink, what you are paying is the selling price of the cool drink plus VAT.
Sure, so you're saying that I'm paying tax on everything I buy? How much is VAT?
At present in South Africa, VAT is set at 14%.
Sure, so how much am I actually paying for a cool drink?
Well, let's work it out. Let's say a shop decides to sell the cool drink for 3 Rand. This means he would have to charge 14% VAT on that 3 Rand. In other words, the cost that you pay is equal to 3 Rand plus 14% of 3 Rand, which is 42 cents. So in other words, you'll be paying 3 Rand 42 cents.
So then what happens to the extra 42 cents? Does the shopkeeper keep that?
The shopkeeper cannot keep the VAT for himself. He needs to pay it over to the government or the South African Revenue Services. This is the government's department that collects all the taxes in the country.
Okay, so the shopkeeper keeps 3 Rand and then the 42 cents goes to the South African Revenue Services.
That's right. But it's actually a little bit more complicated than that, I'm afraid. You see, the term value added means that the tax is only charged on the value that each person in the chain adds to the price of the product.
What does that mean?
Okay, let's take an example. Let's say you go to the shops and buy some nice wooden furniture. We'll follow the way that value-added tax gets charged from the forest to the sawmill to the furniture store. Ready?
Ready, let's do this.
The farmer cuts wood, which he sells to the sawmill for 100 Rand. He has to charge 14% VAT on the value added. In this case, how much value has been added?
The wood is still 100 Rand, right?
Exactly. Therefore, he sells the wood for 114 Rand or 100 Rand plus 14 Rand in VAT. So the farmer keeps the 100 Rand and pays the 14 Rand to the government. Got it?
So far, so good.
Great. So now the sawmill has now bought the wood for 114 Rand. The sawmill processes the wood and sells it to the furniture factory for 300 Rand. Again, he needs to charge 14% VAT, which will work out to 42 Rand. So the total price he charges is 342 rand. Got it?
I'm still with you 100%.
But now this is where the whole value added part comes in. The sawmill has already paid VAT on the wood it bought from the farmer. For this reason, it does not need to pay the government the full 42 rand of VAT he will charge on the wood he sells to the furniture shop. Still with me, Joe?
For sure.
What happens is that he deducts the VAT that he has already paid on the trees he bought from the farmer from the VAT that he charges on the wood he sells to the furniture shop. You see, he has already paid 14 rand VAT when he bought the wood from the farmer. He deducts this amount from the VAT that he will charge on the wood he sells to the furniture shop.
Okay, I think I get what you're saying. So if he deducts the 14 rand that he's already paid on the wood he bought from the farmer from the 42 rand he charged on the wood he's selling, he will only send the government 28 rand.
That's absolutely right. Basically, he takes out 14 rand out of the 42 rand and only gives the government 28 rand.
But hang on, isn't the government then making less money?
That's a very good question. The answer might surprise you. Remember that the government has already collected 14 rand from when the farmer charged VAT on the wood he sold to the sawmill. Now the sawmill pays the government an extra 28 rand. That means that the government in total has received 42 rand, which is exactly 14% of 300 rand.
So it all works out in the end.
Exactly, but that's not where it ends. So the furniture shop buys the wood from the sawmill for 342 rand, which was 300 rand plus 42 rand in VAT. It makes a chair from this wood and sells it for 700 rand. But the furniture store also has to charge VAT. So it sells the chair for 700 rand plus 98 rand VAT, which equals 798 rand.
But let me guess, the furniture shop can deduct the VAT it paid when he bought the wood from the sawmill from the VAT it pays to government.
Well done, you're absolutely correct. The furniture store can deduct the 42 rand VAT it paid on the wood it bought from the 98 rand it charges on the chair it sells. So it only pays the government 56 rand. The government now has another 56 rand to add to the 42 rand it has already received, which means they have now collected 98 rand in all.
And what about the guy who buys the chair? Can he claim VAT?
No, that's where the chain ends. The guy who bought the chair is not going to resell it. He's not going to add any value, so he cannot get any of the VAT back. Got it?
Got it. It all sounds really complicated, but it's actually quite easy.
That's right. Let's summarize all of this in a table. The farmer grows the trees, so he has created all value. He sells the wood for 100 rand and charges 14 rand VAT. This money goes straight to the government. The sawmill adds 200 rand to the value of the wood, so he only pays VAT on the value he has added. Therefore, he pays 28 rand to the government. The furniture shop adds 400 rand to the value of the wood, which means he pays 56 rand VAT to the government. In total, the VAT amounts to 98 rand, which is exactly 14% of the final retail value of 700 rand that the furniture shop sells the chair for.
Wow, that's pretty cool, eh?
So if you need to pay all the VAT that you have collected on your sales but are allowed to deduct the VAT you have already paid on your purchases, then you are going to have to keep very good records to be able to complete these calculations. By law, every single business in the country needs to complete a VAT return every second month and submit it to the SARS.
Every second month? Wow, that must mean a lot of paperwork. So is VAT charged on everything we buy, Mampo?
Almost, but not quite. Some items like basic foodstuffs, for example, fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, and bread are zero rated. This means that there is no VAT charged on these items. Why do you think the government does not charge VAT on these products?
Well, like you said, it's basic food stuff, so maybe this is a way government helps poor people to make sure that they don't buy products that cost too much.
That's exactly right. Another important fact to note is that only businesses whose sales are more than 300,000 rand a year have to register and pay VAT.
Okay, so smaller businesses don't have to charge VAT on the items they sell then?
Not a cent, but of course, it also means that they can't claim back VAT on their purchases.
Sure. You know, I never ever thought I'd understand this tax thing, but now I'm really enjoying it.
It's like you said yourself, Joe. It seems really difficult, but actually it's easy. But that's all we've got time for today. Just remember how important it is for the owner of a business to keep strict and accurate records. If you don't pay your VAT or try and cheat the taxman, you could end up going to prison. Remember, ignorance is no excuse. It is your responsibility to find out what you need to know and do.
For sure. So keeping records is good for a whole lot of things then.
That's right. You need to keep good records so that you know what your profit is, so that you can compare these real figures to your budgeted figures, and so that you can keep on the right side of the law and pay your VAT.
I don't want to get into any trouble with the law. Thanks for the interesting lesson, mums. Ciao, ciao.
Ho fihlela re kopana hape ba heso, ha e phaphathwe.